All right, so let's look at your guided practice for 7A, and I'm just looking at the last question that you had on here. So this is the one where I saw the most confusion, I think. And so this question is asking you to use the multiplication principle. And we're given this, that there's random digits 0 through 9 allowed for each of the 5 numbers required on our license plate. And we're looking at what's the probability that we would end up with this license plate number, 56,789. And so let's first off take a look at what is the multiplication principle. And so here's our technical definition that it gives you in your textbook, and it says that suppose we have m possible outcomes for one process and n possible outcomes for the second, and then the total number of possible outcomes for the two processes combined is m times n. And this extends to any number of processes. So if we have more processes, we just keep multiplying on the possible outcomes for each process. And so really what we need to look at is, first off, how many processes do we have? What are our processes? And then for each process, how many possible outcomes do we have? So let's look at a little simpler problem. This one says, how many outcomes are possible when you roll 2 dice? And so first off, looking at, okay, how many processes do we have? And we would have 2 processes, right? We have 2 dice that are being rolled. And then for each process, how many possible outcomes do we have? And so for one die, if I'm rolling that, I have 6 possible outcomes, the numbers 1 through 6. And then the same is true for my second die. I have 6 possible outcomes. So for each of these, I have 6 possible outcomes. And so the multiplication principle tells me that I just multiply those possibilities together, those possible outcomes. So 6 times 6. And so here's our technical answer. A single die has 6 possible numbers 1 through 6. Second one has 6 possible, and we're multiplying those, and so the total possible outcomes for the 2 dice is 6 times 6, or 36. So let's look back at our question about our license plate here. What I want you to think about is how many processes do we have, and then how many possible outcomes do we have for each process? And then you're just going to multiply that number of possible outcomes times the number of possible outcomes for each process. Just multiply those all together. And so as you're thinking about those questions, trying to put this together, keep in mind that we have the digits 0 through 9. That means we have 10 possible digits, right? Easy to forget to count 0, but as we count 0 in there, that is 10 possible digits that we can have. And so as you're doing the counting on this, make sure you count 0. Hopefully that'll help you out as you work on this problem. Let me know if you still have any questions.